Hello, you most welcome. It's Henry the Computer Guy, and in this video you will learn how to work with the lookup functions in Microsoft Excel. For example, you're going to learn how to work with a lookup function. You'll learn how to work with a V and HLookup functions, which specifically represent the vertical and horizontal lookup respectively. You will also be able to learn how you can work with a VLookup on multiple worksheets in Excel. So for our example, we are going to begin with the lookup function. What does it help us to do? Specifically, the lookup function is categorized under the Excel lookup and the reference function. That means that it can help us to make, let's say, or perform a rough match lookup, either in a one row or a one column range, and return the corresponding value from another one row or another one column range. So the main difference between the lookup function and these two, either the VLookup and HLookup, is that these two are limited to only the vertical and the horizontal respectively. But the lookup function is cross-functionality. It can work with the vertical and the horizontal. That is the main difference. So now, down here, we have some information. Let's say we have the customer name, the items taken, we have the cost and the dates on which these items were bought or taken. So now they are trying to, let's say, ask us, for example, the customer name, which is Regina, and they want us to find her total from the table using the lookup function. So first of all, this word is not all that visible. Let's click here and drop it such that it can become visible. Then we push this one a little bit up such that we can see everything well. So now we are going to use the lookup function to find Regina's total. So how does the lookup move? We shall use what we call the lookup value, the lookup vector, and the result vector. But before we use them, we have to understand them. So what does the lookup value represent? So this one represents the value to search for. And it can either be the text, it can either be a number, true or false, anything that you feel you want. And in our case, we are going to use the name Regina. That is going to act as our lookup value. Then, when we come to the lookup vector, where is this name located? It is located in the column for customer's name, and we shall be selecting the range for these names, or the range for these names. So what you have to note onto this one is that it has to be sorted in ascending. So now let's first note that one before we even leave this place. So we shall come and let's say put an arrow here. Let's say we are going to note this one. Let me make it thick, and I want to note something here. It has to be ascending order. So that means that you have to sort it in ascending order first, and that is what we are going to do before we even continue. So we highlight this section, then we come to sort. Then we can say from A to Z, and we can continue with that selection that we have. So our information has been now selected from ascending to descending. So now the last one is what we call the result vector, and this one specifically represents the data from which we want to return a value. And remember, our question is asking for the total, so we shall select the column for the cost, or the column for the total, which is the cost. So now we shall come, let me first of all highlight these ones with something as, let's say, the thicker color or thicker border, such that we can classify exactly what we need from our table. So let me also put this one as a thicker. So that is it. That means that we are going to be working with only this one. So we want to search for the cost for Regina, and it's specifically 6,000, but we want to use the lookup function to find that. So we shall come where we want our value and say equals, then we look for the lookup. So when it comes, it will ask you to put the lookup value, and in our case we say that it is going to be Regina. So we shall put our comma. Then we have what we call the lookup vector. So we have our selection where we have the customer name. That is going to be the selection up to here. Then we put a comma and continue with the result vector. Where are we going to get it from? From the cost. So we shall also highlight up to here. Then we close our bracket and press enter. So it has actually found our 6,000 as the value that or cost that we needed for Regina. So when you try looking through, we have Regina biscuits, then actually the money or the cost is 6,000. So the answer has been returned. So having done that one for the lookup function, let's also try the V and H lookup function. And here we have some class scores, and we have the names, the score, and the comment. So we have some information down here that is actually representing the information. We have the, let's say, the scores. Let's indicate the heading there. Then we have the comment that we have to be using or to base on. So let's make it in form of a border such that it can be visible. Let's put all borders. So that is what we are actually going to be using. But before we use the VLookup function, we have to know how it moves. So we have what we call the lookup value. We have the table array, the column index number, and the range lookup. We are going to explain what each represents. So let's start with our formula here. So we shall say equals VLookup. So when it comes, it will ask us to put what we call the lookup value. What are we basing on? We are basing on our score. So we shall select the score, then comma, the table array. That means that we are going to be selecting from these options down. So they are in now form of a simple table. But we are not selecting the headings because we only need from, let's say, this score up to the distinction. So we shall select it. And remember, it has to be absolute. So you will press function 4 onto your keyboard to make it absolute. So I'll press my function 4. So it is now indicating the dollar sign that it is absolute. Then we put the comma. So what are we going to do next? It is the column index number. So what we want to pick from this selection is in which column? So remember, we have the first column and we have the second column. So we want to pick the fail, the merit, and the distinction. So it is in column 2. I will indicate it with a 2. Then comma, they want us to choose either the true or the false, whether it is approximate match or it is the exact match. So when do we use each? For example, if you talk about the approximate match, it is used when the lookup value is not known. That means that you're going to be selecting from the criteria given to you. And if it is the if it is the false, we shall be either using, if let's say the value is a unique known identifier, we always use what we call the false or the exact match. And that means that the exact match is used to return the exact corresponding information in the same row. That means that if you're having it there, it will be representing it there. So for our case, we are going to use the approximate match because it is specifically not known. That some of these ones are not specifically known. So we shall use the true. So I will click on true, it will put it there. Then I will use my bracket to close it, then I press enter. So it is returning my fail. So when you look here, they are telling us that from 0 up to around 59, they will all be getting a fail. So that means that it is correct. So we drag our formula to the next other cells. So let's prove and see. This is 20, it falls under this. This is 70, it falls under this. This is 90, it falls under the distinction. And if I told you wanted to use some of the ranges here, you would come and let's say use what we call the number formatting. For example, if you wanted to put a range from 0 to let's say 59, you can use what we call the number formatting by right clicking and coming to formatting of the cells. So when you come to the formatting of the cells, you'll come to what we call the custom. If I'm to put this one aside, you'll come to what we call the custom because we want to customize that cell. Then we come and select our 0. That represents everything that we've left in our cell the other side. So we shall come and indicate what we need. So for example, we shall leave a certain space, open the quotes and put, let's say 2. Now this is going to be to 59. Then we close it. It is going to show you how it will look like as a sample here. Then you can say, okay. So when you come here, it is representing it in that form. Let's do it for this. So we shall come and right click. We come to formatting of the cells. Then we come to, let me put it aside here so that you can see everything clearly. Then we can come to the custom. We can come to the 0 that represents everything that we've left in the cell. Then here we add what we want. We can add a space. then quotes, and put 2. Let's say this is going to be from 15, let's say from 60, from let's say 60 to, let's say 84 to 80 what? 84. Then we close our bracket. So it will show you the sample that you'll be having. Then you can also say, okay, let's do it for the last one. We shall come and say right click, formatting of the cells. Then you come and say, we come to the customizing of the cells. Then we can select that one that represents something that we've left in our cell. Then we come and add something that we want. We can put a space, open the quotes, then put 2. Then let's say it can say, let's say 100 or above. So we can even close our quotes and the sample will look like this. Let's say okay. So that's how we can put the ranges if in case you wanted to indicate them there. So we are done with our VLookup. Now the HLookup works in an opposite way from the VLookup. It is going to be representing horizontal. So we have to turn this information in form of a horizontal form. So that means that we shall come and say, let's say we have our score. Then we have our comment down here. So that is what we are actually having. So we have to indicate this one with either, let me copy these ones because we have already done them. So let's copy, Control C, we put this one here, which is Control V. Then we copy this one, Control C, then we paste here, which is Control V. We click here, we click Control C for copying and Control V for pasting. Then we can put also this one, which is a Control C, which is the fail. We put it there. Then it is Control C. Then we paste it here, which is Control V. We copy this one, which is here. Control C, then Control V. So that is actually what we are having. Let me make this one larger. So if we are to make this one in form of a border, let's put also borders to make it clearly visible. So that is what we are having. This one has been vertical, this one has to be horizontal. Let me put these ones in the middle also. I can select them, then I come and select it middle, such that they can be in the center. So we shall come and use our HLookup. So we shall say equals HLookup. So we shall select our HLookup. Then what are we basing on? We are basing on our score again. Then comma the table array. We are now selecting this up to here. We are now selecting the labels. So we shall select this up to here. But remember, we said it has to be absolute. You press a function 4 onto your keyboard. So make it absolute. So we have put $signs there. Then comma, what we need the row index number. Instead of this one being a column index number, this one is turned to a row index number. So we have row 1, then row 2. So what we want to include in this column is in column what? Row 2. Whereby if we count this one as 1, this is 2. Where we have the fail, the merit, and the distinction. So we shall put a 2. Then comma, we shall also pick from the true or false, and we say that we are going to be using the true. So we shall press enter. It has to give us the same answers like the vertical. So they all work in a different way, but they can give us the similar answers. So that one has been specifically the lookup, the VLookup, and the HLookup. So let's try working on how we can work with a VLookup with multiple sheets. So we have a sheet here, which is sheet 1, and we have sheet 2. So this information is indicated here, but it is actually having some information. Onto this one, we have our names, we have our gender, we have our IDs. And on sheet 1, we want to get this information which is on sheet 2 to sheet 1. For example, we want to bring the names to this column, and we want to bring the gender to this column, but we are getting them from sheet 2. What exactly we can do is working on multiple sheets. So we have sheet 1 and sheet 2. We want to see how we can work with either those sheets at the same time. So now, let's come here and put our formula. We are going to be using the VLookup. So we shall come and say equals the VLookup. So what are we basing on? We are going to base on our ID, and that is going to be specifically this one that we have selected, comma, then we want to select some items from sheet 2. That means that we are going to come and select sheet 2, then we have our table array. Remember, it is going to be the table array, so we shall select the whole of this information. But remember, we said the table array has to be absolute. We press function 4 onto our keyboard. So we have made it function 4, so it is specifically now absolute. Then comma, the column index number. So remember, we have said that we want to pick a name from this side, and in this command, or in this, let's say, range, it is in column 2. This is column 1, this is column 2. So we shall write a 2 there. Then after, we shall write our false, because it is going to represent an exact match. So we shall select false. So we shall say enter. So let's go back. Our name has actually been got from the sheet 2 to sheet what? Sheet 1. So let's drag and see how it works our information. So it is actually getting information but from the table which is on sheet 2. That is specifically how we can work with it. Let's also try for gender. We are going to say equals the VLookup. So VLookup, what are we basing on? We are again basing on our ID, comma, but the information we want to use in the table array is on a sheet 2. So we shall come and select our sheet 2. Then we highlight it. That is it specifically. Then we make it absolute by pressing function 4. Then comma. Remember, we need gender, and gender is in column 3. This is column 1, column 2, and column 3. So we shall indicate a 3 there. Then comma, we shall put false, which is the exact match. They have to get the exact match, either M or F. Double click on it and press enter. So let's go back. So actually our gender has also been indicated. So let's drag and see how to get the values. So now they are telling us that Bob is actually a male. So we have actually indicated these ones, but getting them from the sheet 2. That is how we can work with the VLookup or the lookup or the VLookup with multiple sheets. It's been Henry the Computer Guy, and if you're new to my channel, please help me and click the subscription button. And if you also have a friend who needs this content, you can help me and share the link to them. Bye bye, I sign out.